income earners. This is according to the latest BankServe Africa Disposable Salary Index. The index shows that although the economy is slowing somewhat, income from formal sources did beat inflation. The BankServe Africa banking payment system processed over 3 million formal salary payments. The index shows that the average take-home salary was slightly over 12,000 Rand per month for the year, except in December, when bonuses were paid, when the average was over 13,000 Rand. On average, take-home salaries increased by 6.7% last year, down from 8.8% of an increase in 2014. Now, in real terms, salaries were 2% higher. This means that they beat the average inflation rate of 4.6%. The index concludes that despite real personal income tax hikes, and low employment growth in the formal sector, employees are still receiving salary increases after tax and deductions. Well, in a first for the country, a national savings index has been launched to measure the country's state of savings. The index was launched in Johannesburg by the Gordon Institute of Business Science together with Investec. The index is measured against international counterparts. It's revealed a structural decline of the country's national savings rate over the last 2 decades. For 2015, South Africa scored 63.4. Well, to help us understand what that score actually means and how the index is compiled, Rene Grobler is the head of cash investments at Investec. She joins us now. Rene, thanks very much indeed for coming in. All right, so I suppose that the important thing with this index, as I see it, is that we now have something empirical in terms of a number that may support what we always thought. South Africans are just not saving.
Correct. I think maybe I should start with why we created the index, as you alluded to. In previous years, we've seen a lot of focus on saving, but it's been at the individual level, at a microeconomic level, and very often it's either survey-based, so polling opinions, or it is really instructive in saying we need to save more. It's very difficult to unpack why we've seen the steady rate of decline in savings in South Africa until we have the real facts. So the first thing that we wanted to do is create real credible academic research to bring some thought leadership to the topic. So that was the first intention of the index. Secondly, what we wanted to do was create an aspirational benchmark, because if we talk about a savings rate currently of 16.3% against GDP, the question is, so what? Is that good? Yeah. Is it bad? Who should we be comparing ourselves to? And we identified through other research, which has been internationally acclaimed, 13 so-called saving stars of countries who have sustained an economic growth rate of over 7% for 25 years uninterrupted. So that became a data set that we could use as a benchmark, as well as South Africa's high watermark. Yeah. So we went back 26 years to construct this index and to really look at 3 things. The 3 things we looked at was the flow of savings into the economy, also the stock of savings, which is really the accumulated savings over a number of years in the economy. And then also we looked at the environmental factors, which really influence our ability to save and the net savings result of South Africa.
I want to get into that in a moment, but let's just talk about what the finding is suggesting when you compare South Africa to other dynamic economies. Is the gap really that wide?
So the interesting part about this is that the 100 is not really a percentage. We shouldn't be reading the 63.4 as a percentage. Yeah. The 100 represents the pass mark for South Africa, meaning that if we reached 100, we would be doing everything correct in terms of helping us create savings in the country. And why savings is so important for us at a macroeconomic level is that saving is the only fuel for investment. And investment is one of the most critical components identified as generating economic growth in a country. So for us, what we're saying is if we look at 63.4 compared to our own history, compared to the saving stars, what we see then is that we're only 2/3 of the way towards creating a savings environment and a savings result that will support the NDP's objective of a 5.4 economic growth percentage.
But I want to get a better sense in terms of the comparison with other countries. I mean, let's look at our neighbor, Botswana. What features are allowing them to actually be better at savings than South Africa?
So if we look at the research and the index, one of the interesting things is that Botswana is probably one of the countries with the biggest economic growth. And not speaking about Botswana specifically, but what the index identifies is 10 environmental factors that play a role in our environment that will either stimulate or detract from savings. And to give you some of those examples, so these were the top 10 that we found. The first one and the first 3 that are really the worst scores are some of the fundamental problems with our economy in any event. So these include unemployment, which is sitting at a rate of 26%. We know that 1/3 of our country is unemployed. If you don't have a job, you don't have permanent income. Growth in per capita income, which has certainly since 1994 been increasing in our country, but really is lagging our counterparts in terms of mints or BRIC countries. We've grown in 20 years about 1.3%, where our counterparts are growing a lot faster. And then the third one is productivity growth. And we know that that is really hamstringing us from a savings environment and then a growth environment. The last one, which is really something we can do something about as an industry, is the financial literacy, which also comes up as one of the factors that's really hindering the South African household sector from understanding their options in terms of savings and also their access to credit.
I've got a couple of seconds left. I just want to take you off on that last point. What does financial literacy really do when we have potential interest rates hikes coming up? We have tax hikes that may come up. I mean, does that awareness really help? Does it offset the damage that those hikes could do?
So the research shown by Gibbs really shows us that savings is a learned behavior. And if we want to make an impact on the national savings, our household sector is actually now detracting from savings in the country, and that even the lowest income countries, and some of these examples in the saving stars are low income countries in poverty who have learned how to save, either through incentives like matched saving schemes, prize-linked savings, or even microeconomic solutions. So financial literacy plays a big part in that.
Rene Grobler from Investec, thanks indeed for your time.
Thank you.